Before we begin, there's something you need to understand. Every trader, whether they admit it or not, goes through the same 3 stages before they ever become profitable. Most don't realize it. Most never learn the pattern, and most never make it past the first stage because they don't know what's happening to them until the damage is already done. But Jesse Livermore knew. He lived these stages. He survived them, and he recognized that if a trader doesn't understand these transitions, they will keep repeating the same mistakes for years, sometimes decades. The truth is this: your results right now, your losses, your wins, your frustration, your breakthroughs, they're not random. They're signs, signals, clues telling you exactly where you are in your evolution as a trader. If you miss these signs, you repeat the stage. If you understand them, you advance. And the difference between the traders who grow and the traders who disappear comes down to whether they recognize these 3 stages before it's too late. So listen carefully, because once you hear what I'm about to tell you, you will never look at your trading journey the same way again. If you skip this, you'll spend the next few years learning these lessons the hard way, through losses, frustration, and unnecessary pain. But if you stay, if you give yourself these next few minutes, you'll understand the roadmap that every profitable trader had to follow. Let's begin. The emotional stage, where every trader begins. Every trader begins the same way. Not with knowledge, not with discipline, not with structure or risk management, but with emotion. Raw, unfiltered, powerful. This first stage feels like chaos disguised as excitement. It feels like possibility wrapped in uncertainty. It feels like standing in front of a door you don't understand, yet you can't resist opening it. Every trader enters this door with the same belief: I can figure this out. I can win. I can beat this. But the market has a way of dissolving that belief with the most brutal teacher of all: experience. This stage is unavoidable. You cannot skip it. You cannot cheat your way around it. You must walk through it, just like Jesse Livermore did, long before he became the legend we remember today. Livermore used to talk about this early phase as if it were a kind of fever, a fire that burns too hot to control, a period where the market feels like an adrenaline machine, and every trade feels like a chance to prove something to yourself, or worse, to others. You enter trades too early. You exit them too late. You chase because you fear missing out. You hesitate because you fear being wrong. You add to losers because you cannot accept defeat. You cut winners because you cannot handle the pressure of being right. Everything feels personal. Every candle feels like a judgment. Every loss feels like a wound. Every win feels like validation. And the more emotional you become, the more the market punishes you. This is not an accident. It is initiation. The emotional stage is where the market strips away illusions. It is where you begin to realize that intelligence alone means nothing. Confidence means nothing. Ambition means nothing. Only humility and awareness can survive in this environment. But no one comes to trading humble. Humility is not the starting point. It is the outcome of pain. Livermore described these early years as a brutal schooling. He said the market had no interest in who he was, only in who he became. And who he became was someone forged by the consequences of emotional decisions. In this stage, you experience your first real highs and your first devastating lows, the rush of a winning day and the emptiness of a losing week, the pride of your first big trade and the shame of giving it all back just days later. You begin to taste the entire emotional spectrum, and you start realizing something nobody told you at the beginning. Trading will expose parts of yourself you didn't know existed: your impatience, your fear, your impulsiveness, your denial, your addiction to certainty, your hunger for validation, your inability to sit still, to wait, to breathe. The market doesn't just test your strategy, it tests your character. And in this first stage, your character is often not ready. You will experience the illusion of control and the humiliation of losing it. You will try to predict the market and watch the market ignore you completely. You will think you understand patterns, only to watch those patterns crumble. Not because they changed, but because you did. This is where frustration grows, where disbelief sets in, where many traders quit. But the ones who don't quit, the ones who keep going, are the ones who begin noticing something beneath the chaos. A voice, a whisper, a question rising from somewhere deeper than emotion. Why am I doing this to myself? What am I not seeing? This question marks the beginning of your evolution, not because you have the answer yet, but because you finally sense that the problem is not the market, it's you. Livermore used to say that the market doesn't break traders, it simply reveals what is already broken. And in this emotional stage, everything broken inside you comes to the surface. Your ego becomes visible, your insecurities become loud, your weaknesses become unavoidable. You are forced to confront yourself in ways most people never have to. And the truth is, very few traders ever make it past this stage. They stay locked in a cycle of emotional trading for years. They keep repeating the same mistakes with different charts. They seek new indicators. Instead of new understanding, they look for shortcuts because they cannot endure the discomfort of discipline. They want to win without changing. They want to profit without evolving. They want certainty in a world built entirely on probability. But the traders who survive, the traders who eventually become profitable, are not the ones who find better tools. They are the ones who find better awareness. Eventually, after enough emotional pain, something shifts. You begin to feel tired, not physically, but mentally. You get exhausted from repeating the same emotional loops. You get bored of being impulsive. You get frustrated at how often you sabotage yourself. You get sick of feeling out of control. And then something powerful happens. The pain becomes a teacher. The chaos becomes information. The emotion becomes fuel for clarity. You begin to notice your own patterns. You notice how fear pulls you in too early. You notice how greed keeps you in too long. You notice how denial traps you in losing trades. You notice how excitement blinds you to danger. You notice how revenge disguises itself as confidence. This awareness, this painful, sharp awareness, is the seed of transformation. And this is the moment every profitable trader remembers, because it is the moment they finally stop running from themselves and start observing themselves, the way Livermore did when he realized his biggest enemy was never the market. It was his own impulses. Every trader must go through this initiation. Every trader must be cracked open by their own emotions. Every trader must learn that discipline is impossible until emotion is understood. This is not a punishment. It is the process. It is the necessary first stage on the path to profitability. Because before you can control your trades, you must learn to control yourself. Before you can read the market, you must learn to read your own mind. Before you can survive the game, you must understand how your own psychology tries to sabotage you. Only then, and only then, are you ready to enter the second stage, the logical stage, where the chaos finally begins to make sense, and the trader you are becoming begins to take form. The logical stage, when discipline replaces emotion. There comes a time in every trader's life when emotion finally exhausts itself. You get tired of your own patterns, tired of being pulled around by fear, tired of feeling controlled by impulse, tired of watching the same mistakes repeat themselves. Under different charts, different markets, different conditions, but always with the same result. This exhaustion is not weakness. It is the beginning of clarity. You reach a point where you say to yourself, I can't continue trading like this. And the moment you say those words, you step into the second stage of becoming a profitable trader. The logical stage. This is the stage where emotion does not disappear, but it stops being the driver. You begin replacing instinctive reaction with intentional action. You begin realizing that trading is not about feeling right, but about doing right. In this stage, everything around you begins to slow down. Not the market, but your perception of it. You stop seeing 1,000 things at once. You start seeing one thing clearly. Your impulses become quieter. Your mind becomes sharper. Your actions become steadier. Jesse Livermore called this the stage where a man begins to think. He said that after the emotional chaos burns itself out, the trader finally has space for logic to grow. This is the phase where rules enter your life, not because someone told you to follow them, but because you finally understand why they exist. You see that stop losses are not restrictive, they are protective. You see that position sizing is not optional, it is survival. You see that waiting is not weakness, it is wisdom. You see that trading less is not lazy, it is strategic. Something inside you begins to align. You start building a framework. Your trading becomes structured. You give yourself boundaries. You define what matters. But the most important change is that you begin to separate your identity from your outcomes. A loss no longer means you are a failure. A win no longer makes you feel invincible. The chart stops being a mirror for your self-worth. It becomes a landscape for your decisions. This separation is the birth of objectivity, and objectivity is the birth of consistency. You also begin noticing something new, a feeling you've never experienced in your early trading, the feeling of control, not over the market, but over yourself. You enter only when your rules allow it. You exit when your plan tells you to. You take trades because they make sense, not because they make you feel good. You avoid setups that used to tempt you, because you finally understand that temptation is not opportunity. Your relationship with the market changes. The market is no longer an emotional battlefield. It becomes a chessboard, a place of strategy, a place of probabilities, a place where logic has more influence than adrenaline. You begin tracking your trades. You begin writing your thoughts. You begin seeing patterns in your behavior instead of just patterns in price. You start recognizing how your decisions evolve under stress, under pressure, under uncertainty. You study those decisions, not to punish yourself, but to understand yourself. This stage is not glamorous. It is not exciting. It is not dramatic. It is deliberate. It is methodical. It is the act of rebuilding yourself from the inside out. Livermore believed that during this stage, a trader becomes a craftsman, someone who approaches the market the way an architect approaches a blueprint, with intention, with preparation, with respect. You stop wanting to win fast. You start wanting to win correctly. This is the moment when trading stops being a game and becomes a discipline. You learn to follow your rules, even when every emotion inside you begs you to break them. You learn to stay out of the market, even when the boredom feels unbearable. You learn to cut a trade, even when your ego whispers, just a few more points. You learn to do the hard thing, because the hard thing is the right thing. At first, this discipline feels unnatural. It feels forced. It feels like you are going against your instincts. But over time, your instincts begin to change. Your emotional impulses weaken, and your logical impulses strengthen. Your mind starts valuing process over outcome. You stop chasing trades and start filtering them. You stop predicting and start preparing. You stop guessing and start listening. In this stage, you become a student of structure. You begin to understand how markets breathe. You see that every trend has a beginning, a middle, and an end. You see that price does not move randomly. It moves with intention, and if you are patient enough, the intention reveals itself. But perhaps the most profound shift in this logical stage is your relationship with loss. You no longer hate losing. You respect it. You accept it. You expect it, because you finally understand that loss is not the opposite of winning. It is the cost of winning. This acceptance is the emotional maturity you spent years trying to force, but could only achieve through experience. You stop trying to avoid losses and start trying to control them. You stop trying to be right and start trying to be consistent. Livermore believed that the most dangerous trader in the world is the one who mixes emotion with logic, half discipline, half impulse, half control, half chaos. This stage is where that halfness disappears. You shed the emotional skin and step into a new identity, built on logic, structure, and reason. At this point, You begin to see the market differently. Patterns that once confused you now make sense. Movements that once scared you now seem predictable. Noise that once overwhelmed you now fades into the background. You begin trusting your process in a way you never did before. A funny thing happens here. You become calmer, more patient, more observant, less reactive, less fragile. You stop trading to prove something. You stop trading to feel something. You start trading to execute something. A plan, a framework, a set of principles that protect you from your own worst tendencies. And this is when your results finally begin to shift. Not dramatically, not explosively, but gradually, steadily. More green days, fewer catastrophes, smaller mistakes, bigger clarity. This is the second stage. Every trader must survive to become profitable. The emotional stage breaks you down. The logical stage rebuilds you. It teaches you the discipline you didn't know you needed, and it prepares you for the third and final stage, the mastery stage, where trading stops being something you do and becomes something you are. The mastery stage, when trading becomes identity. There comes a moment in a trader's life when something profound begins to change. Not in the market, but inside you. A moment when trading no longer feels like a battle, or a puzzle, or a chase. It begins to feel like something else entirely. A practice, a discipline, a way of thinking, almost a way of being. This is the third and final stage, the mastery stage, the stage very few traders ever reach, the stage fewer still manage to stay in. This is the stage where you stop trading the market and start trading yourself. To reach this level, you must survive the emotional storms of the first stage and the disciplined reconstruction of the second. Only then are you prepared for what comes next. Because mastery is not built on knowledge, and not even on discipline. It is built on transformation. You begin to notice it slowly, in subtle ways, in quiet moments, in the spaces between your decisions. You sit down at your desk and feel nothing pulling you. No urgency, no excitement, no fear, just presence, just awareness, just clarity. It feels almost spiritual, like the noise inside your mind has finally surrendered. The market opens, and instead of reacting, you observe. You don't chase movement. You listen to it. You let it breathe before you intervene. You let the noise dissolve before you search for meaning. Livermore said that mastery is the art of being early, not in your entries, but in your understanding. At this stage, you begin to feel the market's intention before it becomes obvious. You sense the weakness behind a strong candle. You sense the pressure beneath a quiet range. You sense the shift before the break. You're no longer waiting for confirmation from indicators. You're confirming through behavior, through structure, through rhythm, through the way price reacts to its own history. You see the chart, not as a sequence of bars, but as a living narrative, a story unfolding, a psychology expressing itself in real time. And what surprises you most is not how much you see, but how much you no longer need to see. Signals that once felt essential now feel like clutter. Indicators that once felt powerful now feel like distractions. Noise that once captured your attention now passes through you like wind. You realize that mastery is not about having more tools. It's about needing fewer. The mind at this stage is uncluttered, neutral, balanced. You are not trying to force clarity. Clarity simply appears. And when it appears, your decision becomes effortless, not rushed, not anxious, not dramatic, effortless, precise, calm, right. This is not intuition in the mystical sense. This is intuition built from thousands of observations, thousands of mistakes, thousands of corrections. Intuition crystallized from logic, from discipline, from experience. It is intuition that has earned the right to exist. Livermore used to speak about this stage with a tone of deep respect. He said a trader who reaches mastery no longer sees the market as a threat, but as a dialogue. Each candle is a sentence. Each level is a paragraph. Each trend is a chapter. And if you listen, Really listen. The market tells you exactly what it wants to do. You stop predicting. You stop hoping. You stop forcing. You start understanding. This is also the stage where your emotional connection to winning and losing changes dramatically. You no longer feel the rush of a win. You no longer feel the sting of a loss. Both become data. Both become feedback. Both become information. You begin judging your performance, not by the color of your P&L, but by the quality of your decisions. Did you follow your system? Did you respect your risk? Did you act with clarity? Did you wait when nothing was there? Did you step forward when opportunity appeared? Your scorecard becomes internal, not external. You gain a new kind of confidence. A confidence not built on wins, but on alignment. Alignment between your actions and your true identity as a trader. Because mastery is not about trading perfectly. It is about trading as yourself. The calm you, the patient you, the aware you, the version of you that the market cannot manipulate. You begin to feel something you have never felt before. Control, not over the market, but over your responses, your impulses, your decisions, your discipline. This control is quiet. It does not brag. It does not flex. It simply exists. It radiates through your behavior. It shapes your thinking. It anchors your emotions. This is the control that keeps you from chasing, that keeps you from forcing trades, that protects you from revenge trading, that keeps your size rational, that keeps your mind clean. It is the control that turns trading into something sustainable. And when you operate from this level, your relationship with time changes. You no longer rush the market. You no longer fear missing out. You no longer grow impatient. During slow periods, you trust that opportunity will come, because it always does. Time becomes your ally, not your enemy. You begin to see that the greatest traders in history did not win because they traded more. They won because they waited more. Livermore wrote that the longest waits always preceded the biggest wins, and he was right. The quiet stretches are where mastery prepares you for the coming move. This is the third stage, the stage where silence becomes signal, where patience becomes power, where discipline becomes instinct, where everything you learned, everything you suffered, everything you survived, finally comes together and turns into wisdom. This is the stage where you stop trying to trade well and begin trading naturally, where you stop trying to prove something and start trying to remain aligned, where you stop being a student of the market and become a student of yourself. When you arrive here, you understand something no beginner could ever understand. You realize that profit was never the goal. Profit was always the reflection, the mirror showing you who you have become. The emotional stage breaks you. The logical stage rebuilds you. The mastery stage reveals you. And once you reach this stage, you don't just survive the market. You belong in it. This is the final transformation, the moment trading ceases to be a struggle and becomes a conversation between who you are and what the market reveals. This is where the journey of every profitable trader truly begins. If you've made it this far, then something inside you is changing. You didn't just watch a video. You walked through the same 3 stages that shaped Jesse Livermore and every profitable trader who ever survived this game. The emotional storms, the discipline that felt impossible, the quiet clarity that only comes after you've met every version of yourself the market could possibly expose. Most traders never make it here. They quit in the chaos of the first stage, or they get trapped in the rules of the second stage, never realizing there is something beyond discipline. But you kept going. And if these 3 stages felt familiar, if they echoed pieces of your own journey, then you are further along than you think. Because profit isn't earned in a single trade. It's earned in the person you become while surviving the journey. This market doesn't reward perfection. It rewards transformation. The emotional trader reacts. The logical trader understands. The masterful trader listens. And the moment you begin to hear the market, in the silence between the candles, is the moment you begin trading with a kind of clarity most people never reach. So take a breath. Look at how far you've come. And remember something Livermore understood at the very end of his life. The greatest trade you will ever make is the transformation of your own mind. Stay patient, stay disciplined, stay aware, because the trader you are becoming is far more powerful than the trader you used to be. And the journey is only beginning.